Thank you so much for doing this interview today.
Thanks for having me here, Sharon.
So before we get started, I want to talk a little bit about the project itself. The Career Ready Skills Project is to help create awareness about career ready skills and help students understand ways in which their peers are developing career ready skills by sharing their experiences. So let's get started with the first question. From the career ready skills listing that I provided, which skills do you feel you have developed the most through your academic work at McMaster? Could you provide examples of how you have or have been developing them?
Two skills that I developed here would be digital technology and written communication. I just took a GIS class called ENV Society 2GI3, where we used ArcGIS Pro, and it was an experiential learning class. So basically, whatever we were taught in the class was basically what we were going to be learning on the job. And so having that applied direct knowledge of the technology we would be using on the job was really nice. Another skill that I learned was written communication. And basically, in my first year history class at U of T, since I'm a transfer student, it was more so a class where we developed our writing rather than learning about history. So it strengthened our essay writing skills and written communication.
Yeah, I think you made some really good points there, especially you really highlighted how McMaster really offers different and really various experiences in the courses itself that help career ready skills. So that was a really nice point made. The next question is, one of the career ready skills employers are looking for is professionalism. Can you share with me ways in which you might show professionalism in your academics, paid or unpaid work?
While I was working on retail, obviously you work with many different type of people and you're working with many customers. You have to make sure they're getting what they want, all your transactions are being completed thoroughly as I was a cashier. Also making sure that the customer gets what they want and making sure that you have a professional relationship with them and your coworkers as well.
Yes, I agree. Customer service and professionalism go hand in hand, and professionalism is really important in customer service because in order to make sure the customer is satisfied with their experience, the employee needs to make sure that they are professional. So that was a really good point made. The next question is, students often feel their experiences need to be directly related to a career to have value. But we know that employers are looking for skills that can be developed from a range of experiences. Can you share one example of an experience that you may not see as relevant, but in fact you were able to develop one of the career-ready skills that was listed?
So for a while, I've been a tutor, even though I don't really have the aspiration to be a teacher or an educator. I believe that it has developed a bunch of the career ready skills that are listed. One of them being critical thinking. It has allowed me to really see what skills I can develop in the children that I'm teaching and see how I can improve them and make sure they get the best grades and make sure they're confident in themselves as well. And teamwork would be the other skill that's developed. With that, I have to work with the parents and teachers to make sure I'm giving them this adequate help that the kids do need, and making sure that everything's running smoothly and making sure that I'm being communicated well with them, which goes along with communication. The child is communicating what wants, and what they think they need help in. So making sure that I can build that relationship with them, as well as communicating with the teachers and the parents.
Yeah, I can see how someone might not see tutoring directly relating to their career path, but every experience matters regardless of whether it's specifically in the career path that you're looking for or if it's something that may be completely different. Employers are looking at the experience itself, but the career ready skills are really important. So that was a good point made. The next question is, since the COVID pandemic, which of these career ready skills that were listed have you been forced to develop or use more?
Digital technology would be the skill I developed, as I never really did online phone calls. There was no online classes before. We didn't have anything of that sort. So getting used to that kind of technology, realizing that everything would be online was a big learning curve, and having to overcome that was something that I needed to overcome.
Yeah, I think a lot of people experience the same thing of having to learn how to use platforms they've never used, like Microsoft Teams and Zooms. And I think it really has forced a lot of people, employers, employees, and students especially, on how to use digital technology. So that was a really good skill that came from the pandemic in a sort of way. The next question is about career management. So career management is a skill listed on the Career Ready skill form. Can you share examples of what you are doing or have done to develop your career management skills?
So for the recent internship I got, I used resume critiquing and cover letter critiquing in order to perfect my resume and cover letter in order to get the internship. Also, building my portfolio, as this is it was a designer internship, so making sure I had the appropriate pieces and pieces that I believed reflected the best of my work. Also, networking and building relationships in order to have me actually get the internship and make sure I'm building relationships with employers.
Yeah, I can see how you took really smartly placed steps in order to work towards your opportunity to the internship. Congratulations, by the way. Yeah, resume critiquing, cover letter critiquing, they're all really helpful tools, and McMaster offers many that are helpful towards career management skills. So I'm congratulations once again on your opportunity. So the next question is about cultural fluency. So cultural fluency is one of the listed skills on the Career Ready skills list. Can you share in what way your time at McMaster is helping you develop this skill?
So since I am a transfer student, and it has been kind of like a culture shock in a way, coming from a different school and coming here, having to learn about the culture of Mac and seeing how things work here rather than and getting used to that, and also making new friends and then building new relationships in my new environment.
Yeah, transferring can be a really big change. When you transfer, you leave behind the culture that you're used to, your friends and your peers, even though you can communicate in other ways, of course. But transferring is one way that can help you improve cultural fluency. I can see that, especially coming to a new environment can be hard, and when you transfer, it forces you to learn more about the new culture. So the last question, just to wrap up, is what tips or advice might you give to a fellow student on ways to build career-ready skills?
I would say to take advantage of every resource that school offers, like the Student Success Center, going to networking events and networking with future employers, talking to peers and your profs, especially your profs. Your profs are there for you, and they really just want the best for you. And talking to your peers, like if you have that relationship down the line, you might end up working together one day. So it's nice to have that relationship built.
Yeah, I think you made some really good points there. It's essentially that use all the resources you can, help others, and help find ways that you can get help yourself. And I can see how that's one of the many ways to build career-ready skills. So thank you so much once again for doing this interview, and I hope you have a great winter break.
You too. Thank you for having me here.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye.